Imagine a normal Friday morning, blue skies, people heading to work, children playing in a daycare yard. Then, without warning, the sound of nearly 200 gunshots shatters the air. Glass explodes from office windows, people dive for cover, and a deadly siege unfolds at one of America's most secure health facilities. This is the harrowing true story of the CDC shooting in Atlanta. A day when science, safety, and lives collided with sudden, senseless violence. By the end of this video, you'll understand not just what happened, but the deeper, unsettling question. Was this tragedy a random act, or the inevitable result of growing hostility toward one of America's most important institutions? Before we dive in, make sure to pause and hit subscribe to Cuffed and Curious, where we uncover the most gripping true crime stories and the mysteries behind them. On a quiet morning, inside the sprawling Atlanta campus of the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, thousands of employees were going about their work. Some were reviewing data, others attending meetings, and in the on-site daycare center, children were playing under the watch of their teachers. Then the sound began, a sharp rhythmic pop, pop, pop echoing across the courtyard. Some thought it was construction. Others knew instantly, gunfire. Within minutes, the CDC would become the scene of a high-powered assault. By the time it ended, 180 rounds had been fired, 150 windows and doors were riddled with bullets, and a police officer, Officer David Rose, would be killed responding to the chaos. One employee was walking to her car when she heard it, distinct, mechanical pops cutting through the morning air. She froze. "If I kept walking," she later recalled, "I could have been in a killing field." Another employee standing by a window would later see that same glass explode from incoming fire. And inside the daycare? A mother, holding her children close, heard the noise change, turning from distant pops to the sickening thuds of bullets striking her building. She and 8 children crammed into the daycare bathroom, the only room without windows, while she tried to explain to her little ones why they had to be quiet. The investigation would later confirm the scope. Glass shards flew up to 60 feet, bullets pierced offices, and the sound of gunfire carried across the entire CDC complex. Some employees sheltered in place for over 2 hours, not knowing if the shooter was inside their building. Others sprinted across courtyards, ducking behind concrete pillars. The shooter was identified as 30-year-old Patrick Joseph White. His exact motive remains uncertain, but early leads suggest a troubling fixation on the COVID-19 vaccine and anger over the death of his dog. Friends and neighbors described him as openly hostile toward vaccines, an attitude investigators believe may have fueled his rage toward the CDC. One longtime CDC employee made a chilling statement. "I wouldn't say we saw it coming, but it wasn't a surprise. The CDC's been vulnerable for a really long time. It's shocking but not surprising." That vulnerability wasn't just physical. It was also about the growing climate of hostility and distrust toward the agency in recent years. Officer David Rose, a husband and father of 3, responded to the shooting and paid the ultimate price. His widow stood in silence days later as officials toured the shattered glass and bullet-pocked buildings. The Secretary of Health and Human Services visited briefly, offering condolences and promising to support the CDC community. But his visit drew criticism from the CDC union, who pointed out that he spent less time on the ground than the attacker did. The union, representing thousands of CDC workers, demanded sweeping reforms: 24/7 armed perimeter guards, bulletproof glass, weapons detection at all entrances, better evacuation plans, and perhaps most importantly, a public stand against the kind of rhetoric that they believe fueled the attack. One employee put it bluntly: "It's hard to trust someone's sincerity when they've been trashing the very work we do for years." The most haunting image from that day? A daycare teacher clutching 3 terrified children, running across open ground while glass exploded overhead, not knowing if the next bullet had her name on it. This was more than a shooting. It was a direct strike at the people tasked with protecting public health. And it's a reminder that even in the most secure places, danger can erupt without warning. The investigation continues, but the scars, both physical and emotional, remain for everyone who lived through those 2 hours of terror. If you want to see more deep dives into true crime and real-world mysteries, subscribe to Cuffed and Curious and turn on notifications. Share this video to keep the conversation going, because stories like this aren't just about the past, they're warnings for the future.